Hello everyone, back again to Magic Movie Recaps. Today I'm going to recap the film from 2004. Lila did CA. Please do subscribe as a gift to support the channel. God bless you for doing that, thanks. A budding writer finds inspiration when he falls for a blonde teen who enjoys sharing her intriguing experiences. Chimo, an aspiring writer and unemployed teenager, lives with his mother in a small Muslim community in Marseille, France. He regards himself as a loser and spends plenty of free time with his three jobless friends, Moulad, Big Joe, and Bakary, who consistently engage in lousy deals. Despite possessing a remarkable writing talent, Chimo never ventured beyond his hometown. However, he fondly remembers that during high school, his French teacher, Claire Soulier, tried to assist him in breaking free from his circumstances. The instructor then visited their home, offering the teenager a chance to attend a particular school in Paris to refine his writing talent. She highlighted the prospect of meeting renowned writers who would mentor him and assist in book sales. Despite his mother's willingness to work and gather funds, Chimo, mindful of their financial struggles, turned down the offer. In response, Claire clarified that all the teen needed to do was submit a 30-page story. If the school found it impressive, he could secure a scholarship. Chimo contemplates the opportunity and shares it with his friends. However, Moulad asserts that the aspiring writer doesn't belong to Paris and suggests that the French teacher may have ulterior motives. However, Chimo clarifies that Claire acknowledges his writing talent and perceives admission to the school as a chance to escape poverty. Concerned for his friend, Moulad advises Chimo against trusting French people and brings up the writer's father, who abandoned them to be with a French courtesan. This statement triggers Chimo, prompting his friends to leave. Once they are gone, Chimo reflects on himself, deeming himself a loser. He finds going elsewhere ridiculous. Convinced that staying with his current friends makes him appear less like a loser. Most nights, the group sneaks into a warehouse to steal items while Chimo remains behind, captivated by an exciting book. Subsequently, they sell the stolen goods before heading to the mosque. One morning, the squad notices Lila, a beautiful blonde teenager who moved to the town 3 months ago, passing by. Chimo is immediately captivated by her, secretly finding her attractive. Moulad vocally expresses an interest, telling his friends he intends to marry her someday. The first time he sees her, Chimo becomes so inspired that he starts writing about it. One day, he spends time alone with Lila in the sand pit, where she unexpectedly asks him if he wants to see what is underneath her skirt. Upon hearing this, he inquired about her rate, and she confirmed that he could pay whatever amount he liked. However, he pointed out that he was broke. Curious about her unusual offer, Chimo inquires, and she responds that she just feels like making the proposition. Seeking to understand her intention, the aspiring writer asks if she has made similar offers to others, but she heads to the tree. Chimo follows her and eventually agrees, prompting Lila to ask whether he wants to see it for a shorter or longer duration. Opting for a shorter time would mean she would lift her dress for only a few seconds, while choosing the latter would lead them to the swing. When the aspiring writer takes too long to answer, Lila pressures him into deciding by mentioning that the offer is only for a limited time. Immediately, Chimo chooses the second option. Upon hearing this, the teen rides the swing, revealing what's underneath her garment as she moves back and forth. After their meeting, Chimo realizes how Lisa made his words flow more easily. Unbeknownst to the aspiring writer, Lila lives with a Catholic aunt who asks her unusual requests. When Lila doesn't show what's underneath her skirt long enough, her relative calls her out for being ungrateful, emphasizing that she took her in to prevent her from ending up in a foster home. Frustrated with her aunt, Lila angrily departs from the house and explores the town on her bike. Simultaneously, Chimo is at the grocery store, packaging his purchases. Noticing his crush passing by, he feels compelled to attempt to follow her. Stepping outside, he is surprised to find Lila behind him with her bike. She offers him a ride home, and he accepts. He takes control of the pedals while she satisfies him. After dropping off Chimo, Lila gives him a CD, hoping that he will enjoy it. While she rides her bike home, Moulad and his friends spot her and decide to follow. The group's leader attempts to introduce himself and offer a ride, but the beautiful teen ignores him, walking away. Observing this, his friends tease him, suggesting that Lila brushed him off. However, Moulad interprets the blonde teen's indifference as a sign of interest in him. Meanwhile, Chimo listens to the music that Lila gave him, and he genuinely loves it. That night, the aspiring writer joins his friends on a night ride. In the back seat, he is preoccupied with thoughts of Lila, visualizing her sitting on the hood wearing a red dress. Upon arriving home the following day, Chimo, feeling inspired and now interested in attending the school in Paris, attempts to call Claire, but she doesn't answer. Following this, he heads to see Lila, finding her reading in the backyard. He then approaches her and returns the CD. She invites him to sit and remove his top, praising his olive skin. After this, she instructs him to apply lotion on her back. Unbeknownst to them, Lila's aunt is watching them from the window. Chimo becomes curious about why Lila can speak English, but the teen shares that she spent the summer in America. She then tells a provocative story about meeting a guy who used to work on a tractor and spending a romantic time with him on a haystack. Witnessing her interaction with the guy, Lila's aunt becomes worried and approaches her niece that night in her bedroom, begging the teen not to leave her. Meanwhile, Malaud asks Chimo if he had an opportunity to talk to Lila, but the aspiring writer denies it, keeping his moments with her a secret. Hearing this, the group leader expresses frustration about Lila running off whenever he tries to approach her. He then invites his friends to help him talk to the beautiful teen. Along the way, Chimo tells Malaud that Lila might have someone else, so he's being rejected. However, his friend remains hopeful, stating that someone as beautiful as Lila won't stick to one man. Later, while writing, Chimo's mom approaches her son, inquiring about an unpaid bill. Upon noticing him smoking, she scolds him for purchasing cigars, emphasizing that he's old enough to work, yet she continues to support him financially. Chimo heads to the clinic to donate his blood to earn extra money, but the staff tells him to sit first. As he waits, he creates a conversation between himself and Lila, imagining them running away together. Suddenly, his moment is interrupted when he realizes that Lila is beside him, who's in the clinic because of her aunt. As they converse, she suddenly opens up about an idea, stating that she wants the man she loves to see her being romantic with someone else to turn him on. The other people around hear this and become disturbed. In response, Chimo suggests that the man watching might end up beating up the other guys she will be with. He mentions that he would do it himself because seeing his love with someone else would be painful. Hearing this, Lila points out that at the end of the day, despite being with other men, her heart will still belong to the only man she loves. When Chimo seeks clarification if Lila sees love that way, she nods. Lila then asks him if he has ever been in love, and the writer just answers that he doesn't know. She concurs, stating that she, too, is not sure. After a second of silence, Chimo asks Lila the same question, wondering if she would like to see her boyfriend being romantic with other girls. She replies excitedly, stating that she would love it. An old man overhears her answer and calls her out for her promiscuity. While a nurse takes his blood, Chimo can't help but ponder why Lila talks to him even though he's a loser. Despite this, he is drawn to the blonde teen and her intriguing mind. Later, as he leaves the clinic, he spots his squad and attempts to invite them elsewhere to prevent them from seeing Lila. Suddenly, the blonde teen exits the door, prompting Malaud to follow her and offer a ride. Chimo tries to stop his friend, pointing out that the teen already has a bike. As Malaud talks to her, she keeps her head straight and walks. He attempts to invite her to his birthday party, but she rejects him. To get her attention, the group leader blocks her way, confronting her about whether she's deaf or if he's just not good enough for her. Chimo interferes, asking his friend to let the blonde teen go. When Lila says goodbye to Chimo, a jealous Malaud confronts him, questioning if they know each other. The aspiring writer simply says that he met her at the clinic. However, Malaud doesn't believe this, accusing him of keeping secrets. That night, Malaud celebrates his birthday. Chimo arrives with a gift and overhears the celebrant speaking on the phone with those who won't be able to attend his party. Disappointed, the squad leader invites his friends to go to a brothel and find someone to spend the night with. After Malaud, they pressure Chimo to take his turn in spending a romantic time with a courtesan. But the aspiring writer refuses and storms out. Due to this, they accuse Chimo of being into men. But Malaud interjects, thinking that his friend spent a romantic time with Lila, and that's why he refused. The annoyed teen then asks the driver to pull over so he can walk home instead. The next day, the aspiring writer meets Lila, who shows him an explicit graphic novel that inspired her idea the previous morning at the clinic. Afterward, Lila shares that she wants to star in a provocative film to earn extra cash. When Chimo asks her why she's interested in that, she explains that she wants to watch herself express her love to others and try new things simultaneously. She then asks him if he could film her during such activities, assuming he'd like it. Chimo immediately declines. He stands up and confronts her about where she's going with her provocative stories. However, she just appears unbothered, prompting him to leave. When Chimo arrives home, his mother scolds him for hanging out with an indecent French teen, recalling the day her husband left them for a French courtesan. As they argue, the woman heads to her room and closes the door. The aspiring writer follows and calmly talks to his mom, noting how angry she became after her separation from his father. He suggests that she work on herself so she won't be alone anymore. After his son leaves, the woman considers the advice and improves her appearance to find better opportunities. Soon after, Chimo finally secures a job as a sweeper at the cemetery. There, he sees Lila by a grave nearby. He approaches her and realizes that she's visiting her late parents. He then takes the initiative and cleans the tomb for her. Throughout that week, the blonde teen appears at the place where he works, but they never talk. One day, Lila rushes to Chimo, telling him she had a dream about him. She details that she expressed her love to 100 men, but they all had his face. This revelation makes the writer smile, but at the same time, he feels worried that she might also be doing this with other men. One day, Chimo witnesses Lila getting inside a gray car, making him assume she's seeing someone else secretly. Unbeknownst to him, Malaud is also spying on her. While hanging out at the cafe the next day, the group leader notices that Chimo isn't joining them and is just sitting outside, observing an ant walking on his finger. Suddenly, he is interrupted when Lila's aunt runs through town, calling for a priest to help her niece. Chimo gets worried and heads to Lila's place, where he sees her waiting for him. Lila reveals that in the morning, she tricked her Catholic aunt into believing that she saw Lucifer with her own eyes. At this moment, Malaud follows Chimo and lurks behind the door, eavesdropping on their conversation. Lila begins telling a provocative tale about her supposed romantic encounter with Lucifer. Hearing this, the aspiring writer warns his crush to be careful with such stories. When Lila asks if he doesn't believe her, Chimo tells her he does and then holds his hand, attempting to kiss her. Suddenly, the aunt returns with a priest, interrupting their moment. As Lila talks to the pastor, she states that she saw Lucifer that morning, describing it as red and holding a pitchfork. Suddenly, Malaud arrives, revealing the provocative story he heard from the blonde teen, and attempts to attack her. But Chimo intervenes and pushes him away. Outside, the group leader confronts his friend for hanging out with Lila, who has a disgusting involvement with Lucifer. However, he just walks away to avoid an altercation. Later, Lila heads to the market and sees Chimo's mom, who smiles at her. Meanwhile, Malaud tries to make up with his friend, pointing out that their fight and her stories were Lila's fault. Concerned for his writer friend, Malaud assumes that Lila is targeting Chimo because she wants to show him off. He describes the blonde teen as mentally ill, but his pal only dismisses him, claiming that he likes hearing Lila's stories. At the cafe, Malaud shares with Chimo that he saw Lila getting into someone's gray car with curtains and returning with cash, implying she's a courtesan. However, the aspiring writer refuses to believe him. Suddenly, they catch Lila passing by, prompting Malaud to call her and mock her. This behavior angers Chimo, who punches him. That afternoon, Chimo visits Lila, confirming if she's seeing another guy because his friend saw her enter a gray car. However, the blonde teen expresses that she doesn't care what his pal thinks of her because she likes what she's doing anyway. Afterward, Lila admits she feels hurt when she sees Chimo with his phony friends. She accuses him of betraying her because he didn't stand up for her when Malaud attacked her. This statement confuses Chimo because he thinks she is having fun with her stories, but she clarifies that he knew she made up the tale about encountering Lucifer to get rid of her aunt. Chimo becomes increasingly perplexed about his role in her life. She mentions thinking of him when she's alone, envisioning a future marriage, and confessing her love. Before he can respond, she runs away, and he remains in place, choosing not to chase after her and express his true feelings. Chimo returns home, admitting to himself that he has never experienced anything like that before. He reflects on how he should have grabbed and hugged her, but he froze and got scared. Thinking of revisiting her, Chimo buys a camcorder, ready to fulfill Lila's wish that he film her. Afterward, he meets up with his mom, who works in a building. On their way home, the woman apologizes to her son for judging Lila and calling her indecent the other day. The aspiring writer heads to the cafe that evening, only to find it trashed. The owner explains that Malaud has become aggressive to the extent that he ruined the place, yelling that he would do something to Lila. Chimo becomes worried and enters Lila's house, where he sees his Big Joe and the tied-up aunt. Entering the room, he finds Lila in tears on the bed, and Bakary runs away from the scene. Seeing the sheet, the aspiring writer realizes that, despite her provocative stories, it was Lila's first time, and she lost her innocence to his friends who took advantage of her. Enraged, Chimo confronts their group leader, beating him up until the police arrive to take them away. In the police station, Big Joe admits to the sin and confesses that Chimo wasn't one of them. After release, the aspiring writer heads to Lila's house, only to find her and her aunt gone. He then explores the place and finds a scrapbook underneath the bed. Suddenly, he is interrupted when a woman arrives and looks for Lila. She reveals that she picks the blonde teen up to babysit her kids, disclosing that she owns the gray car. This revelation explains that Lila isn't involved with another man. Following the woman's departure, Chimo opens the scrapbook and discovers a compilation of torn-up articles, the basis for Lila's fictional, provocative stories. Overwhelmed with emotion, he heads to the backyard and sheds tears. In a desperate attempt to reach Lila, he enlists the help of a police detective. When he finally hears her voice, he confesses his feelings, and she acknowledges being aware of them. However, they haven't seen each other since she went to Poland for the entire summer. At that point, Chimo recalls his experiences with Lila and incorporates them into completing his 30-page story. He visits his French teacher to submit his work and later secures a scholarship. Soon, he boards a bus heading to one of the best schools in Paris, and it's all thanks to Lila, who changed his life with her stories. During the ride, he recalls one detail he forgot to include in his story. Lila once told him she liked his eyes whenever she talked to him. Thank you for watching. Remember to do a comments. See you in our next video.